The Thunder slay the Celtics. Are Boston's hopes for a repeat dimming? Mikal Bridges calls out his coach because he's playing too much. The NBA finds the Utah Jazz because they aren't playing enough. And shield your ears. Matt and Haize share some hard truths with NBA fan bases. That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories every day with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore. Matt, will the Denver Nuggets ever beat the Minnesota Timberwolves again?
No, unfortunately, because, the earth society probably collapses before they have another opportunity. It's just bad luck there. Really, really bad luck that society's going to end before they have a chance to beat the Wolves again.
I mean, seriously, what's your worry level for a potential Nuggets-Wolves playoff matchup? Because right now, Wolves sitting in the 7th seed, Denver in the 3 seed, so it's very much a real possibility.
Oh, yeah, they're screwed. They are screwed if they face the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are going down if they face Minnesota. They don't think so, but I do think that they will get beat if they're in the 3-6, which is why the 4-5 might honestly be better for them.
All right, when we have more time, I want to dig into that. But first, let's go to the Locked On. Let's go to our host from the Locked On Bulls podcast, the Prince of Petty, Haize. Haize, we got a medical update on LeBron James. According to Shams, he's back in Los Angeles per medical recommendation, which begs the question, where has he been? Was he not?
Who knows? Maybe in Dallas?
Oh. All right. Let's move on to some actual basketball action. The Thunder beat the Celtics 118-112 in a highly anticipated matchup between two teams that could very easily meet for an NBA championship in a few months. The Thunder clinching a playoff spot. Matt, yesterday you said that Boston needed this win more to prove that they could beat an elite defense and that it might come down to whether or not they could hit threes or not. Boston shoots 32% on 63 attempts. Do you feel vindicated?
Well, see, the problem is that second number there, 63 attempts. It's a lot. I've started going back through the film, and I'm only about halfway done after watching this game last night. And it's always going to feel a little bit like the Thunder are rushing you. And if you look at it, Lou Dort, just the closeouts, his ability to close space and get a hand up to where shots that should be wide open feel more contested is huge. But Boston was still able to kind of generate the kind of shots that they want to. Like, this was a purposeful attempt by them, and they just shot poorly. And I think some of it was a contest level. I think some of it was the physicality. I think some of it is they just missed shots. So I am not all the way swung here on the Thunder can absolutely do the job of getting the Celtics out of their comfort zone and making them not shoot threes because, 63 attempts is insanely high.
Haize, how about you? Did this result dim the sort of title repeat hopes for Boston, or is this a sort of one-game situation?
Yeah, no, it's a one-game situation. I mean, it is concerning the match point. Like 63 out of 94 shots for three-pointers. That's a lot of threes. But I think when you look at the way that the OKC Thunder played defense throughout this game, the way that their offense was balanced as well. Yesterday, 45 two-pointers, 37 three-pointers, and they hit that at a 35% clip, which is solid for the Thunder. So you want to continue to look at how the Thunder are going to be like. If you can force the Thunder to be inefficient from three, of course, that gives you the best chance to beat them. But no, it doesn't dim my hopes at all for Boston and their chances at another title. This is a fun matchup. I can't wait to see it more.
If Jaylen Brown is going to be this Jaylen Brown that he's been for most of the year and not the Jaylen Brown from last year that I thought was their best player in terms of the actual performance, like Tatum's their best player in terms of talent, changes a little bit. Just changes like things a little bit. If they can't get consistently great games from Jaylen Brown, that's a little bit of a worry that I have. I wrote a thing on the Celtics path to the finals too over on one of the Substacks. Drew Holiday has fallen off a cliff in terms of impact and corner 3-point shooting. Last night, 4 of 10 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. Just something to keep an eye on. If the Celtics win the title, it's not going to be as easy as it was last year.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown only 10 points on 5 of 15 shooting, and it seems like they're leaving Drew Holiday alone a lot more, which when you're facing a team with as good a defense as Oklahoma City, you don't want to give them any more inbuilt advantages than they already have. We're going to hear from John Corrales. He actually throws of Locked On Celtics, he throws a wrinkle into the Jaylen Brown conversation. That's coming up in just a minute, but I want to go to the Thunder side of this and Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder, who gives you his story of the game.
This game had a playoff level feel for both sides in terms of defensive intensity. It had a playoff level feel from both sides in terms of the coaching staffs making adjustments in game, playing their guys 39, 40 minutes like you do in the playoffs. The story of the game was Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren had 23 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. He got to the free throw line 7 times, and he got there by being aggressive off the catch, by getting downhill and getting toward the basket and forcing the issue with the officials to get to the line. All that stuff was reminiscent of what you saw from Chet earlier this year, what you saw from Chet in his rookie season. And you're slowly seeing him build back to that guy. And he has 16 more games to continue to round into form for this Thunder team. But in a night where you had to have him step up, he did.
Haize, was this Matt, go ahead.
If John Corrales, if every game is going to be the best win of the season, every time the Thunder win a big game, that was a playoff atmosphere. That was basically a playoff game. Rylan, it's not the playoffs. You know how it's not? It's not the playoffs. Stop saying it's a playoff game. Stop it.
Well, they didn't play it back-to-back, so that's a point in Rylan's favor there at least. That was his take on the Oklahoma City Thunder Nuggets matchup. But they did play big minutes. Haize, was this a statement win for the Thunder? Was it a statement win for Chet Holmgren? What did you see out of him in this game?
Yeah, I do. I think it was a statement win in a way. Like, I mean, as much as any game in March can be a statement win, but like the teams brought it. They did bring the energy in this game. Neither team was just mailing it in like sometimes you see. As far as Chet is just to do what he did on 14 shots, 23 points, 15 rebounds, 1 block. Chet was all over the basketball court. Chet, I get it. Shai is the MVP. Shai's their best player, but Chet may be their most important player, especially as you get into the playoffs.
What do you think about that, Matt?
Going to be curious. I think it's a great take. I think I'm really curious to see what kind of the impact is going to be if Boston decides to space them out a little bit more, drag him out on switches. Like, it's going to be kind of interesting in terms of like what does he look like when they start to game plan, I think a little bit more specifically for Chet Holmgren, because I didn't feel like they did. I feel like they were kind of caught off guard by Chet in this one. And he was phenomenal in this game. And I think the physicality that he's getting used to is absolutely huge. I agree with Rylan's point on that.
So for the Thunder, the story was Chet Holmgren stepping up. For the Celtics, according to John Corrales, the story of this game was more about a big still being down. Let's take a listen to that.
The lack of Porzingis certainly was an issue because the Celtics, look, the Thunder love to get to the rim, and having a deterrent back there would have been very, very helpful for Boston to have a guy as impactful as Porzingis. When we look at the fouls, Jaylen Brown fouled out, Derek White fouled out, Derek White's never fouled out, I don't think. This might have been the first time ever. Jaylen hasn't fouled out very much, but without Porzingis back there and the pressure that Oklahoma City puts on you, that's tough. If this is the NBA Finals, I feel like the Celtics are going to need Porzingis to win this. They could win it without him, but man, they'll really need him to make it, I don't know if convincing is the right word, but they'll need Porzingis.
So Porzingis is out, has been out with a viral illness that, according to a post by KB himself, has been difficult for doctors to identify. That never sounds good. Is a healthy KP the key to a Celtics repeat, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, as John said, the Thunder love to get to the rim. Wait, no, they don't. They're 26th in rim rate. John, do your homework. That is not accurate. Look, Kristaps Porzingis is awesome. He does fundamentally change things, I think, especially on the offensive end, because being able to post up. The question that you have to kind of ask yourself is, do you feel good about KP posting versus Chet Holmgren or Isaiah Hartenstein? And if you're like, well, they'll just get him on switches. Do you feel good about it versus Lou Dort and even some of those other, like Alex Caruso, who's a phenomenal post defender with his strength, right? I don't. That's one of the reasons why I think OKC matches up so well with them. The other thing is that I don't know that you could just be like, well, KP will be back. Will he? He missed a lot of the playoffs last year and then was out again as soon as he came back in the finals. So availability is always going to be an issue with Porzingis. You have to be able to feel like you can win with or without Porzingis. Also, John being like convincing. Just win, John. Try beating a team when their best player is not out in the playoffs. Let's start there and we can move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to come up against teams missing, an important piece like they did in every series last season. But I do think Porzingis is important for them. Like, you look at how their path could go. Like, they're going to face off some teams with some pretty decent bigs rotation. So Porzingis can be hugely important in that. But to Matt's point, like, you have to be able to still feel confident in your ability to win, even if he's not. Like, if Porzingis is there, great. Make no mistake about it. He makes the game easier on them. The things that he does is important. But the Celtics, whether it's schematically, whether it's defense or offense, they're gonna have to figure out a way to overcome it if Porzingis is not there, because they're still a very talented team, and they're gonna teams have bigs. You're gonna have to find a way to do it without bigs. Get it done.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, there was another exciting matchup last night that came down to an OT game winner by Mikal Bridges, the Knicks, over the Blazers. But the story was Mikal Bridges calling out his coach, Tom Thibodeau, known for playing his starters a lot, We'll talk about that on the other side. Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day. An expert who is going to find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com, only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center with all your accounts, investments, spending in one place. You can go beyond just managing money and start actually building wealth. You might be surprised at how much you're spending on things like food delivery, or streaming subscriptions. With Monarch, you're going to see exactly where your money is going so that you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, Monarch makes it easy to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for long-term goals all in one place. And if you're managing money with a partner, it's never been smoother. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We're not done with last night's action because there were a lot of great games and great moments. How about Mikal Bridges' OT game winner for the Knicks over those feisty Blazers? It came hours after he was quoted pregame criticizing his head coach, Tom Thibodeau, for playing starters too many minutes. Here's the quote. Sometimes it's not fun on the body, but you want that as a coach. And also talk to him a little bit, knowing that we've got a good enough team where our bench guys can come in and we don't need to play 48 minutes, 47. We've got a lot of good guys on this team that can take away minutes, which helps the defense, helps the offense, helps tired bodies being out there, giving up all these points. It helps just keeping fresh bodies out there. Bridges said Thibodeau was receptive, but, quote, sometimes I think he just gets in his ways. After the game, Thibs said, quote, first of all, we didn't have a conversation, unquote, before defending his minutes distribution as the way his team works. Haize, is there drama here between Thibs and Mikal? Was this a smart move by Mikal Bridges to bring this up pregame?
No, I don't think there's any drama. At least not the way that I read into it. Was it a smart move? Yes, somebody needed to say it because Thibs does need to trust his bench a little bit more. Like that's been a Thibs thing literally since he became a head coach. Like not only does he have a extremely good rotation that he can go deep into, like this is the time, right? Especially when you're in March, like you want to go deep into your bench, give your bench players. We know the rotation shrink in the playoffs. Like ease up on your starters just a little bit. Now I know the Knicks have been going through their own thing at points in this season to where, that's going to make Thibs want to turn it up. Brunson's out, things like that. But like, yeah, go into your bench. It's okay not to play your starters until they're exhausted every single game.
I think there is drama. Josh Hart's defended that guy time and time again. And now you got Mikal who comes in and is like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't do this. What I do think is interesting is I thought about this on Locked On Nuggets last night is I don't know the difference in 30 and 38. I mean, I know the difference, by the way. I did take elementary math, but like most players will say that the real kind of drag is everything that goes into the game. It's not just the game. It's you come in 2 hours before and you get treatment and then pregame warm up and stretching and then pregame shoot around. And then you come back in and you do game plan and you go back out and you do layup lines and then you sit around and you wait for the anthem and then you play. And then it's like that whole process is what really exhausts guys and gets them worn out on top of the travel. So I don't know that the minutes are actually that big of a deal, except for the fact that they play in so many games. Like if they played this many minutes, but they play fewer games, I actually think that this would be a pretty smart strategy, but they don't. They play every game and they play all the minutes. They're going to break down. They just are. They're going to break down at some point. And I don't think the Knicks are good enough anyway, but they're going to break down at some point if they don't get their guys some rest. Thibs has got to back off. He gets in his ways is right. He is a coach that thinks that there's one way of doing things, and that's how we're going to do them. It's not going to hold up. It didn't hold up last year, and it's not going to hold up if he keeps doing this.
It seems like there might be some drama interpretation by Thibs' comments that they didn't have a conversation. But when I reread Mikal's comments, he doesn't seem to say that they had like a meeting, like one of these sort of locker room meetings. It seems like he's saying like during the game, they're going up to him and saying, hey, leave that guy in. It seems like this is less about the number of minutes certain guys are playing and more about like, hey, these bench guys are good. We should probably play them a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's a nice interpretation. That's a nice interpretation. I don't know how good they actually are. I don't know. I mean, Miles is good, but like I don't know how good they actually are. I think it also seems like a way to kind of get around it. Like no. There's nothing wrong with you playing starters into the dirt. That's totally fine. But look how good he is. See, look at that rebound. Like trying to fool the kid. It's like the airplane with a kiddo. Airplane coming in. Open mouth for the airplane. That's what it feels like to me with trying to get Thibs to actually play bench guys.
Yeah, you wonder if it's going to backfire a little bit. And Thibs goes, Ben Stiller from Happy Gilmore. Oh, your fingers hurt? Well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled 42 minutes. You didn't play all of them. There's one guy that Alex Wolf of Locked On Knicks would actually like to see get more starters minutes. Let's take a listen to that.
A big game for Deuce in the starting lineup. Didn't have the best shooting numbers overall, but he affects winning a lot. And I think there's a real case for, I know there's some people that are really getting after the idea of like Deuce should replace Hart in the starting lineup. And, Gavin's one of them. And, there's a number of other people that, think like, hey, throw Deuce out there in the starting lineup, bring Hart off the bench. I don't totally disagree, but I think the main thing that we should take away is that Deuce should be closing games a little more, especially if he's playing really well on defense. Like I think he offers more on defense than Hart does. If you can get enough rebounding out there, then you're in good shape. If you can do it, have Deuce out there because he's going to give you a ton on defense and has that 3-point shooting ability and seems to be pretty clutch with it.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Haize? I mean, I feel like we spent a lot of the first part of this season talking about Josh Hart as the ultimate glue guy. If they take the glue guy out, do they come unglued, or should Deuce get more of a shot here, Haize?
Yeah, I mean, like it goes back to the point earlier. Like, this is the time to give those players shots, especially if they're playing well, right? There's nothing wrong with giving those guys a little bit more opportunity. You know what Josh Hart can bring. Josh Hart's going to be able to be that glue guy regardless. He's shown that. He's always going to be that. That's consistent. But playing Deuce a little bit more like that gives you the opportunity to see and prepare somebody. Like, what if you do have to go into that well and rely on him in the playoff because of a matchup or something else? I think if he's playing well and showing that he deserves that chance, why not give him a little bit more runway and see what he can do with it?
Haize, if Porzingis is out for a Celtics Knicks series, can you play Miles McBride instead of Karl Anthony Towns and have Josh Hart guard Al Horford?
No, Josh Hart can guard anybody, but I would say if you can avoid it, try to. But like Josh Hart, I think can guard anybody. Like, that's just what he's shown.
Like, I actually kind of like the idea of them just going to an ultra small ball lineup versus the Celtics. I think you're better off with that if Brunson's back rather than trying to fit in Brunson and Cat. So like that to me is the best way to utilize McBride. McBride's another guy they can throw at the Celtics, and they are going to have to get unconventional if they're going to get past Boston.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on Locked On NBA, the Mikal calling out Thibs because he wants to play less minutes. The NBA fines a team because they're not playing one of their guys enough minutes. We'll tell you about that. Plus, we're going to play a game of earmuffs. Matt and Haize are going to share some hard truths for NBA fan bases. That's all ahead. Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. March Madness is here. I'm wearing my gear, cheering for my Tar Heels because it's basically the last shot that they have to get into the tournament. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Got your eye on a big underdog? Like maybe you want to bet on those Tar Heels. Who knows? FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on, and best of all, the FanDuel app is simple to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. No more waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. More Locked On NBA ahead. Welcome back to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. The NBA has fined the Utah Jazz $100,000 for violating the league's player participation policy by sitting star player Lauri Markkanen during their March 5th game against the Washington Wizards, as well as other recent games. Matt, does $100,000 do anything for a team to discourage them from this kind of stuff that the NBA doesn't want them to do? Should the NBA go back to the drawing board on trying to fix this tanking issue?
Yeah, I have a note here. Ha 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 ha. No, it doesn't. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't change absolutely anything. They don't care. These organizations make so much money. That's a drop in the bucket here. I think punishing the Jazz is like pretty performative, to be honest with you. It's like, hey, we got to make sure that the Jazz play. Is that why you put them on no national TV games at all whatsoever? Is that why you did that? I think it's pretty performative to do this kind of thing. I also think that the league is probably in a place where it needs to kind of peel back a little bit. I was very much supportive of these efforts because I thought it was, hey, this has got to be enough of a problem. We have to communicate to you that rest management is a big enough issue. I feel like it's gone down. I feel like we have fewer games of guys just sitting out because of rest. If they have injuries, that's different. And most of them, I don't remember a lot that popped up where it's like, oh, that's weird. He suddenly has this thing. It seems like this issue hasn't been addressed finally. I think you got to keep reasserting it. But I don't think that stuff like this is actually all that helpful, Haize.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if it was like you said, more egregious, but it does seem like teams have adapted or maybe they've just got more creative. And how they sit players, which at that point, like you can only stop it so much. Tanking's not going to stop. There's no way you can make it go completely away. It's just no matter what you try to do, it's always going to be there a little bit. Teams are going to tank. And if you mean that a team has a better chance at getting Cooper Flag, and you're going to fine them a couple of $1,000 for them. I mean, $100,000 is a lot for me, but for them, that's a drop in the pan. Guess what? I guarantee you, and what they can get based off having Cooper Flag in their arena, it's more than worth it. There you go.
I don't think there's nothing they could do. They could flatten the lottery odds and go, if you're in the lottery, everybody has the same odds at the number one overall selection.
Let me tell you why that doesn't fix tanking.
Okay.
Because then if you're a team that, let's say you're in the bottom 8 last game of the season, and you mean to tell me I'm a 39-win team, and if I lose this last game, I have the exact same odds as a team that won 12 games, teams are still going to find a way to tank. It may not be as egregious, but
it could raise the floor. I mean, you would have less blatant tanks. But yes, I think you're right in that there's always going to be a positioning issue, but I think you would have less blatant tanks in that situation. Or I saw some suggestions on Reddit to this story that they take away lottery balls, like your actual percentage goes down if you're caught doing this kinds of thing. Now, I don't know how that would work with sort of CBA, Matt. I mean, is there really nothing the NBA can do to prevent teams from blatantly tanking?
They can, but it gets into all sorts of complicated mechanics which the league isn't comfortable with. Like you have to restructure the schedule. What you have to do is you basically have to say that after the All-Star break, like certain teams, like you lock the playoffs after the All-Star break or on February 28th, which would actually be good because then we get rid of silly March basketball. But like that's what we're talking about here is like you have to lock it and then be like, all right, from here on out, the records reset. Whoever finishes with the most wins, you get the number one lottery spot. But then you have guys competing for the chance for their team to draft their replacement, which I always come back to as the key problem. That's always a fan solution is, well, make them win for it. You're literally, imagine your boss being like, hey, I really need you to go out there and absolutely dominate today in this meeting. If we do a good job, we're going to get somebody way better than you. It's going to be great. Imagine your motivation in that spot.
Take the bottom 5 GMs one-on-one tournament for the number one overall.
Further. Let's go for blood sport. That's the answer here.
There's
going to have to battle.
As we go through our first year of this show, we have memes developing. Haize's weird hatred for the Los Angeles Clippers being one of them, and another one being Haize's solution for everything is 1v1 tournament. There is not a problem in the NBA that cannot be solved by just one-on-one, mano y mano.
I bet you see a lot of former players as GMs more, and if that's the case, you go to
Lay GM would be the greatest GM at that point.
The Supreme Court today ruled against tariffs after Juan Soto crossed over. On a Juan Soto.
There's no problem. We can't solve as long as we do it in a 1v1 tournament. Okay, the Jazz have been bad this year. They've been really bad. But David Locke, host of Locked On Jazz, says that when Lauri Markkanen does play with the rest of the starting lineup, the Jazz have numbers to dream on. Let's listen to that.
The big four, and they're not that big, are on the floor. Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, and Walker Kessler. Our differential is plus 8.6. What the heck does that mean, David? If we could play those four guys with any other player for 48 minutes a night, not ever make a substitution, and play at that same level for the entire night, we would be the fourth best team in the NBA. Lauri Markkanen comes in as the 48th best player in the NBA. So you have a barely top 50 player in the NBA and nobody else in the top 100. And somehow this coaching staff's gotten that group to be a plus 8.6 and the equivalent of the fourth best team in the league with the 84th percentile offense and the 79th percentile defense. Maybe what the real story is that when Will Hardy has some just viable pieces, they're pretty good.
Okay, so today is, I don't know if you guys knew this, but today is National Earmuffs Day. Earmuffs, great for keeping your ears warm, but also the thing that some parents will yell when they want their child to cover their ears so that expletives or hard truths can be shared. So Matt and Haize, we're going to start with the Utah Jazz and maybe Locked On Jazz here. I'd like you to call earmuffs on some NBA fan bases and tell some hard truths. Matt, do you have a hard truth for the Jazz after hearing what David Locke said there?
I mean, I think for the Jazz, the earmuffs is just hey, that's great. You're not going to have those guys. Those guys aren't going to be around. They're going to trade all those guys. So it's like, hey, your big four. That is quite big. Is doing so much work there, David. That big four is not going to be around. Like, they're going to wind up moving on from those guys. And so it's like, oh, that was nice. Yeah, they'll be nice whenever those guys are on other teams. That would be the one. My bigger one, though, is actually across. I don't pick and choose, David. I don't single teams out. I have earmuffs for all NBA teams and fans. Here's my earmuffs. It's not injuries. It's not. Stop it. Every single game. Well, we didn't have our backup small forward shooting 33% from the field on the season. So I don't know if we can really judge this game. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Isaiah Hartenstein out for half of the season. Chet Holmgren out for half of the season. OKC is still up there. Kristaps Porzingis has barely played. The Celtics are still up there. Every single game that you go into and you're like, well, we didn't have this guy. They didn't have somebody either. The Nuggets last night, oh man, Aaron Gordon was out. Aaron Gordon's been great this year. It doesn't change the fact that the Wolves own the Nuggets. It's constant. The way that your team plays is endemic of how your team fits together, the chemistry, and whether or not your schemes on both offense and defense are being executed well and designed well. It is not about the injuries. There are exceptions. Yes, some teams have had horrible injury luck. Yes, the Mavericks are a good example of this. You did that to yourself a little bit with trading Luka Doncic, but anyway, stop trying to explain everything with injuries. It's not the injuries. That's my earmuffs, Haize.
Wow. I don't know. Set the mic on fire and walk away, Matt. That was amazing. My earmuffs is for Miami Heat fans. Miami Heat fans, get ready because what Pat Riley is trying to avoid, and that's you guys sucking, is coming. And I think that as long as Pat Riley tries to avoid actually building around youth, this season that you guys are suffering right now, yes, you're still on pace to go into the play-in 29-win season. You have a lot more of those now in your future. Heat culture was great while it lasted, but the Heat culture that you're going to be seeing now for the next 2 or 3 years is going to be a team that's right in the middle of the pack. And you better thank God. As much as you guys try to crap on Jimmy Butler, thank God you had Jimmy Butler for as long as you did, because Heat culture is about to be tested really, really tough here over the next couple of years.
Okay, Miami Heat fans, you can take your hands away now. Haize shared the hard truth. Going back to your injury thing real quick, Matt, I think that Thibs would agree with you there, that he would say some of these injuries are super random, and why not just play all your guys as much as possible while you have the opportunity to. And in fact, Will Hardy, that's the takeaway. Play those 4 guys, play them all the minutes and see what happens. That's what Thibs is doing.
Danny Ainge screams, no.
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA.
Oh, look, the flag is actually on right now as we record this. Sorry.
If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. And we're going to see you right back here tomorrow to wrap up the week with our favorite things on Locked On NBA.